Hello, everyone. Good morning. I was going to say good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich. I am Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining the County Executive today are Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Assistant Chief of Public Health Services from the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Earl Stoddard, who is Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, and our special guests this morning are David Naiman, who is the President of the County Board of Elections, as well as Larry Halloran, who is a substitute member for the county's Board of Elections. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Good morning again, Mr. County Executive. The floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. It's still morning. And
Yes.
thanks for everybody being here today after yesterday's internet issues made it impossible for us to host. It kept going in and out for hours. It's been a little over 2 weeks since the state of Maryland began alerting everyone about the error made by its contractor that initiated a reprint of every mail-in ballot in the state. To simply put this, the state's mail-in ballot vendor made a printing error that caused some voters to receive ballots with the wrong party affiliation. Because the vendor couldn't pinpoint exactly who received the incorrect ballots, the State Board of Elections took the only step that ensures the integrity of your vote. They sent the replacement ballots to every voter who requested one by mail prior to the error. Postcards are sent out alerting voters to the situation, and many of those voters have already received their replacement ballots. Please share this graphic provided by the State Board of Elections with your audiences and make sure to emphasize the replacement ballot inside is marked on the front of the envelope. Emphasize the importance of discarding the first ballot that came in, using the new ballot, and returning it as soon as it's completed. We have 58 drop boxes around the county in locations like the Silver Spring Civic Building, the Activity Center in Borough Park, and your nearest high school. These boxes are available until 8 p.m. on Election Day, June 23rd. Ballots can also be mailed back, but those using the mail in the week before the election day should probably take their ballot to the post office to ensure that it gets hand postmarked by the 23rd to ensure that it is counted. If it's not hand postmarked by the 23rd, it does not count. The sorting and verification of mail-in ballots began this week through our Board of Elections, and early voting begins soon. For more on preparations ahead of the primary, I want to introduce my guests this week. Board President David Naiman has been serving on the county's Board of Elections since 2011. His work has helped address voter wait times on Election Day and has led efforts to recruit more election judges. The Democrat is a native of Silver Spring, and he was the first student member of the Montgomery County Board of Education. And the other member is Lawrence Halloran. He's an attorney, more than 20 years of experience on Capitol Hill, including as an investigative counsel and chief of staff on the House Committee on Government Reform and Oversight. He's a Republican and a substitute member of the Board of Elections. So I'm glad to have both Larry and David here with me today to show that our Board of Elections is nonpartisan and that we're all focused on a fair process for everyone. So thank you for being here. And David, I'll let you start.
Well, thank you, Mr. County Executive, for inviting us to be here this morning and for that lovely introduction. The only thing I'm going to add about Larry is that he was a longtime early voting center manager for us, so knows the process really, really well. We're pleased to talk about the upcoming election. You've given some of the facts that I was going to cover. A lot of it is very similar to 2024. Voters can vote by mail. They can return their ballots by U.S. mail or at one of the drop boxes, as you mentioned. They also can vote in person at any of our county's 14 early voting sites during early voting from June 11th to June 18th. Those 14 sites are the same ones that we've had in the last election. They also can vote in person at their assigned neighborhood polling place on Election Day on June 23rd. As you mentioned, there was a mistake by a vendor of the State Board of Elections that resulted in some mail-in ballot voters receiving the wrong primary election ballot. And as you also mentioned, the State Board has sent multiple communications about this, not only the postcards that you showed, but also emails and texts to those who have shared their email addresses or their phone numbers, so that we have it in our voting records. We don't know who received the wrong party ballots, or at least they don't know who, and we rely on them. the replacement ballots did assure that all voters received the correct ballots and that no voter is being disenfranchised because of a mistake by the vendor. As you all know, Montgomery County has very engaged voters. They ask us many good questions, and we are transparent and do our best to provide answers. A lot of good information about this and other subjects is available at the county website, which we get to by going to 777vote.org. And with your permission, I'm going to take a brief look there. And show folks, you can see if you type in 777vote.org and you hit enter, it takes you to our website. And among the information that you're going to find there, first off, I should mention that we have the voter information guide, which was mailed to all county voters, the earliest ever. By law, it's only required to be mailed a week before early voting. We figured that people wanted to know about mail-in voting as well, so we sent it out early. The federal law requires that we send it in English and Spanish. A new state law has required some additional languages, Amharic, Chinese, and Vietnamese. And then we're going above and beyond by adding French and Korean. So, because there's a large population speaking all of those languages. The website also includes information about how to vote, the location of early voting sites and drop boxes, and a variety of other things. And you can see we have a link to the state's information about the replacement ballots, and we've added some information of our own about replacement ballots that we want to make sure that voters get a chance to hear. Here's the kind of the basic information that goes with that. Those who received the mail-in ballots were those whose mail-in ballots were mailed before May the 14th. That would actually be most of our mail-in ballot voters. If you're in that category, the replacement ballots were mailed on May the 26th from our Minnesota vendor, and they started to be received in county homes on May the 30th. Larry, let me turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, David. Yes, thank you. There's a little good news lurking in here that if a voter got a web-delivered printed home ballot or requested a mail-in ballot after that initial run, then they're not affected by this problem at all. And so that's the good news. And the better news is that in our experience, something above 70% of overseas and military voters use the web-delivered ballot. So they are not likely to be much affected by this replacement ballot issue, which I think is good news. And the other thing is to assure people that no vote will be counted twice, that the replacement ballots, each replacement envelope has a unique barcode on here that so when it comes in, we know it's a second ballot. The first one's put aside. It's not counted unless and until it is determined that nothing else has come in from that voter. And these are not new processes. There's always replacement ballots. Voters ask for replacement if they spill coffee on it, if they destroy it, they vote for the wrong voter, for the wrong candidate. And so we know how to replace ballots. We know how to track the first one and the second one and make sure only one gets counted. So the processes are tried and true. We just have to use them more this time than we expected to. But it's the safeguards and the procedures are well established and they are firmly in place.
And so let me just add to that none of the original ballots that were already returned have been destroyed. And we currently have about 6,000 of those. So those ballots are unopened and they won't be opened if the voter votes by another means, meaning the replacement ballot, or if they come to the polls and vote by provisional ballot. For those ballots that are eventually opened, they can only be opened by bipartisan teams at our public mail-in ballot canvas. If you returned your original ballot, if it's the correct party ballot, and if you don't vote in any other way, your original ballot will be counted, but it'll be counted after the July 6th, 10 a.m. deadline for receiving mail-in ballots, which is about 2 weeks after Election Day. Under Maryland law, if it's postmarked by Election Day and received by, this year it's July 6th at 10 a.m., then that is the deadline for receipt. We will only be looking at the original ballots if no other ballot is received at that point. If you haven't voted the original ballot yet, or even if you have, you're probably better off voting the replacement ballot, which we know will be the right party ballot. You'll get notified that we received it within a couple of days of our getting it, and it'll be processed and counted in the normal course rather than that 2 weeks later. Larry.
Yeah, and this is fun. Let me add one thing that so if you requested a mail-in ballot and then decide to vote in person, so I've seen reporting saying that, oh, I'm frustrated by this, I'm going to go and vote. Well, the problem with that is that the system knows that you were sent a second ballot, and it will require you to vote provisionally, either in early voting or on election day. And that's an added complication. It's an added form to fill out, and that too doesn't get counted until later. And so the best recourse is to take that replacement ballot. And if you want to take it to the mail, take it to a drop box, take it to early voting site, take it to your precinct. We'll take it in there. We'll be glad to have it there. So because I mean, the provisionals are a challenge for us in normal circumstances, and this might increase that number. In the last election, there were 27,000 provisional ballots that we had to scan and investigate and make sure that they were proper. And it's a process that can involve some risk of error, both on the voter's part. So it's best to really get that replacement ballot and vote it.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait, if I could for just a minute, if you do choose to vote in person for early voting, the busiest time is the last day, especially the last hours of the last day. The least busy times are on Saturday or Sunday. And during early voting, you can check the current wait times on our website or by texting EV and your zip code to 77788. On election day, the first few hours are the busiest. We are happy to answer questions today. We're also happy to answer questions from voters. They can email us at elections@montgomerycountymd.gov or call us at 240-777-8500. As the county executive mentioned, we did start the processing of ballots last Monday. We will continue on Saturday. None of those ballots are tabulated until election day, but that canvas is open to the public, available in person or online. And we definitely still need more election judges. You can text the word serve plus your email address to 77788, and you'll get an email from us with information about how to do that. And Mr. County Executive, we thank you for the opportunity to be here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you or the media may have.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Members of the media, if you have any questions regarding elections, the upcoming elections, primary elections in the state of Maryland. Joe Dominguez, I see your hand up.
Yeah, my hand's up. I have a question on behalf of Barbara Britt with DMV Spotlight and WMAL Radio. She's not able to ask a question, but Mr. Naiman, she wanted to know if you've gotten any kind of feedback from the public with any kind of sentiments of confusion over the situation with the ballots. She was hoping that you could speak to that topic again.
Well, we certainly have gotten a lot of interest and a lot of people who want to know when their ballots are arriving. That is the biggest thing. In general, we're not in a position to judge what people's what's inside people's heads, but we do know that we're getting questions about that, and we're getting the two biggest questions that I've been getting have been how do you make sure people have not voted twice? And Larry went into great detail about those processes that we've had in place, for as long as I've been on the board, probably much longer. And then the second question is, what will happen to the ballots that were already voted? I get that question quite a bit. And I gave you the general answer. The general answer is if you don't vote by any other means, and that's the only ballot that you submit, and it's the correct party ballot, it will be counted at the end of the process. But as far as any of the weeds on that, the State Board of Elections is meeting next week to talk about exactly how to implement that process. But it will definitely not involve not counting valid ballots.
Thank you. Members of the media, any additional questions? I see Shelley is there, but that's not today. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. David, I know we've talked about this issue since it's cropped up. I was just wondering if you can explain sort of what the difference is between the voiding of ballots, which was what the state board said originally was going to happen to all of the ballots that were sent out in that first round, and then the sequestering of ballots, which is what they're saying is going to happen now.
I think it's just a matter of nomenclature because we're talking about the same thing. Because voided ballots is a term of art in the election community. They can also be unvoided. And so I think sequester is you also may have heard the word quarantine. I don't particularly like that because our ballots are not sick. But it basically means the same thing. If somebody sends back an original ballot and we try to enter it into the system will reject it. And the system will reject it because we have to allow for the replacement ballots to be accepted. Now, once we no longer are accepting replacement ballots, which is that July 6th, 10 a.m. deadline that we've talked about, we are then able to take whatever ballots remain that have not already had a vote or voted by a different method and essentially take them out of whatever you call it, sequestration, quarantine, voiding, it doesn't really matter what word you use, but you can then count those ballots. And there may be people in that category. For example, if a voter is seriously ill, already submitted their ballot, and it's kind of a heavy lift to submit another ballot. If they had the correct party ballot, it will be counted. Voter might have been, going out of town for an extended period of time, not able to retrieve it, that kind of thing. So I would hope that people don't focus too much on the individual words involved. The gist of it is that no one is able to vote twice. We have systems in place that prevent that, and we have different ways of referring to them, but the result is the same.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. Any additional members? Questions for our guests today? No more questions? Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you need to depart, please feel free to do so. If not, you can remain in this media briefing. Thank you so much for
Okay.
joining us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good. Thanks for joining us, both of you, and good luck going forward. You're going to have a lot of
Thank
work
you.
in a few weeks.
We already do. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
More
Yes.
coming.
Yes.
So back to other of our favorite topics, the MCPS budget cuts. I want to comment on the layoffs that Montgomery County Public School leaders are set to announce later today. We still don't know what the final decisions are going to be. This is something that I hope to avoid when I presented my recommended budget in March. I advocated for a modest property tax increase to fully fund the MCPS budget request. But I did that after years of trying unsuccessfully to get the council to adopt a tax structure like those used in DC and Northern Virginia. The change would allow us to raise money from commercial properties and take the pressure off of residential properties. I also tried to introduce in this budget a growth districts to increase revenue from commercial properties along our busiest corridors. And for several reasons, I've repeatedly lobbied our state lawmakers to allow counties to establish special taxing districts so we could raise money without having to impact our residential properties. Unfortunately, we can't get support for our own delegation in Annapolis as long as the council refuses to support the legislation. If I have one opinion and they have a different, then they tend not to take a position. What is totally ironic is that the Maryland Association of Counties, the majority of whom are Republican counties, support the bills to give local taxing authority to counties. Go figure. The council has repeatedly reduced taxes on developers in their race to the bottom. They've won the race, but unfortunately, the development still goes to the places with higher property taxes on commercial development. Effectively, we're boxed into raising residential taxes anytime we try to address our needs, which is not the case in DC and Virginia. And parenthetically, I'll point out that Frederick, Howard County, and Prince George's County all have higher tax rates than Montgomery County. We're at $1.03. Frederick's at $1.11. Howard's at $1.33, and Prince George is at $1.37. For all the rhetoric about protecting our taxpayers, this has really been about protecting commercial property owners from a fair tax system where they would have to pay more, with the result that we wind up with not supporting the projects that we need to support. And it's been a long-term problem. This isn't brand new. It's been out there for a while. It's just coming to a head increasingly now. Let's be honest, the council's support on this budget was not enough. Dr. Taylor and his team still toiled with $36 million gap. And here's the thing about school budgets that people sometimes forget. 90% of the money is spent on staff and staff salaries, teachers, counselors, and support staff. So there's no magic line item you can trim that doesn't touch someone's job or some kid's classroom. Dr. Taylor has been clear. He's going to try to keep the cuts as far away from the classroom as possible, and I believe him, but there's no way to close the gap without some consequences. The other thing I want people to understand is that this isn't a one-time problem, because the MCPS budget has been balanced using one-time money to balance this year's budget. They've already started next year in a hole. And when the full effects of the tax cut that the council approved goes into effect next year, it's creating an additional $100 million hole that doesn't exist right now. So before a single decision gets made on the FY28 budget, they're already behind, and that should concern all of us. More than 70% of MCPS employees live right here in Montgomery County. They pay taxes, they shop here, they're our neighbors. And the idea that what happens to their pay and their jobs is somehow separate from the health of this community, that's a little bit wrong and a bit disingenuous. Their economic stability is our community's economic stability. None of this is easy, including standing behind a property tax increase. Trust me, I know. When I proposed my budget, I said the money generated by raising property taxes was needed not for new programs or initiatives, but to pay for school needs. That's increased compensation to retain the talent we have. It's a real issue for us, because for years Montgomery County had probably the highest paid teachers in the state, but we had the highest cost of living in the state. So in other parts of the state, the wages were lower. Under the blueprint, all the counties have to establish the same base rate, which I think is like $60,000, or at least it was a couple of years ago. And so the county's now in a position where we're competing with other jurisdictions where the pay is very close to ours, if not the same, and at the same time where the cost of living is a lot less. So our advantage historically was, if you came to Montgomery County, you got everything we had, and we recognized that it cost more, so we paid you more. If we're not going to be able to compete on wages, that's going to definitely have a issue with recruitment for people coming to Montgomery County. I think all of this is a shame, because people running our schools and teaching our kids deserve better than to have to justify their value every single budget season. They shouldn't have to fight this hard every year just to do their jobs. And so we'll see how this all plays out. I know that there've been some shuffling about what's going to be proposed to change, but I haven't seen the final decisions yet. So I'm not going to comment on things until I see them. So I guess we can talk about that part next week. In the meantime, water drought warnings were issued to the DC region. And yesterday we learned that our region is now under a drought watch. Our water supply is okay right now, but WSSC Water and our regional partners are asking everyone to be a little more careful about how much water we're using. Nothing dramatic is being asked of residents. Take shorter showers, fix that leaky faucet you've been meaning to get to, and turn the tap off while you're brushing your teeth, and ease up on outdoor watering too. These are small things, but they all add up, and they help protect the Potomac River, which is where most of our water actually comes from. If dry conditions continue, we want to make sure our system stays strong. In Montgomery County, we can make a difference. My message to everyone is to start conserving water at home and outdoors, and to continue your good habits and encourage friends and neighbors to do the same. Help our communities stay resilient. So be careful with what you do with the water. More good news, the county secured $8.3 million in MEA, Maryland Energy Administration grants. I'm proud to share that we got more money for our commitment to sustainability and affordability. Montgomery County government has secured $8.3 million in grant funding as part of our larger $56.8 million statewide investment recently announced by Governor Wes Moore. These funds, administered through the Maryland Energy Administration, are dedicated to local government energy modernization projects. They're called LGEMs. That's going to help us upgrade our government infrastructure while lowering costs for our residents. Money will support 20 clean energy and energy efficiency projects in the county. The LGEM award, combined with our low-cost sharing investments, will save taxpayers an estimated $439,000 in annual energy costs and generate more than $11 million in long-term savings. Projects earmarked for that money include the following. We're going to provide solar-powered backup systems at the recreation centers and community facilities. We're going to add to the county's resilience hub and our microgrid initiative. We're going to expand our solar energy projects on Montgomery Park's properties and improve safety and lighting and energy efficiency in public parking facilities. The governor also announced grant rewards to Montgomery County Public Schools with $2.1 million for clean energy and energy efficiency. Clean energy investments will include solar and geothermal. The municipalities of Rockville and Tacoma Park will receive awards for energy audits and energy retrofits. And several nonprofits in the county received awards for energy modernization projects. The investment's a significant step in our mission to meet the rising demand for energy. Using this MEA grant money to focus on energy efficiency in our public buildings reduces our carbon footprint and directly cuts government utility bills, and it results in overall savings for taxpayers. These MEA grant-funded projects are also expected to deliver substantial results, contributing to a reduction in lifetime greenhouse gas emissions across Maryland. Beyond the environmental benefits, these grants stimulate our local economy by driving demand for green jobs and ensuring our green energy grid remains reliable for generations to come. So we're excited to put these dollars to work to create a cleaner and more affordable future for everyone in Montgomery County. And that's a good segue into, we have an updated greenhouse gas emissions analysis from Montgomery County. The data in the gas emissions analysis, I'll start by saying, is 3 years old. It goes back to 2023, and it tracks a period from 2005 to 2023. Montgomery County-wide, our net greenhouse gas emissions decreased by 32% between 2005 and 2023, despite a 16% growth in the population. Forests and trees result in the net sequestration of more than 427,000 metric tons of CO2, which is the equivalent annually of about 5% of our total emissions. So it actually makes a dent. Montgomery County continues to lead on climate action, and now we have updated data to show our progress and where we need to go. Today, we're sharing results from the Metropolitan Council of Governments, their analysis of community-wide greenhouse gas emissions data. In March 26, MWCOG, that's the Metropolitan Council of Governments, published its community-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory summary. And you can see that it provides inventories for all 24 local jurisdictions in the Metro, DC, and Northern Virginia region, including Montgomery County. The analysis shows Montgomery County GHGs decreased by 32% between 2005 and 23, occurred despite a 16% population increase, and equates to a 40% reduction in per capita emissions. So this is good news, but it doesn't get us where we need to be. That means we're growing as a community while polluting less, which is a good thing. By setting such ambitious climate goals, developing a nation-leading plan, and rapidly implementing it, Montgomery County is making progress, but there's still much to be done about meeting our goal of 100% reduction by 2035. And also, we're not on track to meet our goal of an 80% reduction by 2027. I have to say that, the 80% reduction was incredibly ambitious, but we're up against the same problem that we've had from the very beginning. Government doesn't control most emissions in the county. Most of the emissions in the county come from residences and from private buildings and offices and from vehicles. And absent people in the county making changes, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to achieve our climate goals. As long as, most homes are powered by, natural gas heating or electric heating, if the electricity is not clean, if we're using gas ranges and gas hot water heaters, or if we're driving um, carbon guzzling cars as opposed to clean electric vehicles. As long as most people do that, it's going to be very hard to achieve the reductions that we're trying to achieve. This is not a government project. It can't solely be a government project. If we greened every building in the county and every vehicle that the county owns, we still wouldn't get where we need to be on these climate change goals. So, I've continued to remind people, ultimately, at the end of the day, to the extent that this matters to you, we've all got to make decisions in our personal lives that will move us down that road. And homeowners have opportunities to do that. There are some good programs out there that can help support this transition. County government has loan funds, and it's some of this loan money's out there to help the commercial sector make this transition. So we're trying to support and move people in the right direction, but we need people to continue to use our programs, and to actually, it'd be nice if you'd make us run out of money so we had to put more money into the programs. I'm proud of the way we've been able to take action in general, though, and it leads the way in conservation, from our pace setting adoption of electric vehicles to food scrap recycling in more and more locations around the county. All these things matter. They all build to a better outcome, but we've got more building to do. More good news, a run of good news right now. Early Childhood Education Loan Fund opens 200 new childcare seats in the county. Childcare in Montgomery County just got a real boost last night. We announced the first group of awardees for our new Early Care and Education Facility Loan Program. Nearly 200 new childcare openings are coming to our county. Childcare providers have been operating on a broken business model for years. They don't have the capital to expand, modernize, or upgrade their facilities. They also don't bring in enough money to pay teachers as much as they should get paid for the requirements that are now being put in place for working in a child care center. So we decided to do something about part of this, and through this program launched in October, we're offering forgivable and 0% interest loans. The program supports both family child care providers and child care centers and allows them to increase their license capacity. These upgrades will enhance the quality of programs for children and create additional safe and nurturing learning environments. We received more than 100 applications, which tells you everything you need to know about how badly this is needed. And we were able to fund 19 of those projects with a little bit more than 2.6 million. Most of that investment is going toward expansion in areas of the county where childcare options are hardest to find. Investing in our young residents yields the greatest return for families, for our workforce, and for our community's future. And when parents have access to stable, high-quality childcare, they can work, but when they were able to work, it makes our whole community stronger. I mean, a lot of people have not been able to go back to work because in the absence of childcare, they've had to take care of their young children at home. And taking people out of the workforce is not something, we ordinarily would want to do. But that's a byproduct of not having enough seats for childcare. So somebody has to stay home and take care of the kids. Before we open this up to questions, I'd like to give my staff an opportunity to share any updates, and I'll start with the health team.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. So this week, we're having very nice temperatures outside, but before we have the next media briefing, beginning next week, we're going to be moving into low to mid 90s weather. From a public health standpoint, that always puts certain members of our population at risk. And we just want to raise awareness right now that if you have family or neighbors who are seniors, if you are pregnant or know someone who's pregnant, or have young children, these are individuals who could be at risk for extreme heat. We just ask that you check to make sure that air conditioning is working and has been set appropriately. Maybe check in on those individuals at risk during the heat. Just make sure that they're doing okay and that the temperatures in their houses are reasonable. And during those really high heats, you may want to limit outdoor exercise, strenuous exercise, just again to try to reduce the amount of heat-related illnesses we have. So that's the only update we have. We just want to raise that awareness right now. I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Stoddard if he has any additional updates.
no updates this week. I think we can proceed to questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Members of the media, any questions, general questions? Okay. Hi, Shirley. Good morning again. Go ahead.
Hello. Just a quick question about the green energy grants.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if someone could explain whether all of these projects are new or some of them were already underway and some of them are new.
Well, some of these are new. They're just this newly available money we didn't have before. I'd venture to say that most of it is new. There may be some for existing projects, but if it's for existing projects, then we're expanding them. It just gives us more capacity. So it's not being used for something that we're not finishing unless we get the money to do it. But I can get you, I'll get one of my staff to get Scott to send you over the answer to that in more detail
Okay, thank you.
before you write your report.
Thank you. Members of the media, any additional questions this morning? No more questions for the county executive and county officials? Well, we thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.